Welcome to Online Storytime. Today we're going to read one of our new books from the Diverse Bookfinder collection. It's written by Tomie dePaola and it's illustrated by Doug Salati. In a Small Kingdom. Thanks again to the publishers for allowing us to read this online, and to the Brooks Family Foundation for supporting the grant. In a small kingdom, along an ancient road, a bell rang out in the middle of the night. Townspeople and travelers from all across the kingdom rushed to the palace. As the balcony doors opened, the chief counselor stepped forward and announced, "The old king is dead." A cry rose up, for the old king, being fair and just, was much loved. The small kingdom had flourished under his long rule as a place of safety for caravans. It was said that the king had possessed secret powers against bandits and thieves that rested in a magnificent imperial robe, which few had ever seen. But now that the old king was dead, what would the future bring? The next morning the counselors reappeared. "In 3 days' time," announced the chief counselor, "the old king will be laid to rest. For 2 weeks the gates of our kingdom will be closed for mourning, and all visitors will be asked to leave. But don't despair, people of the kingdom. Before he died, the king chose the son of his old age, the young prince, as his successor." The people were pleased. It was said that the young prince was thoughtful and gentle, and the imperial robe would give him the power that a king needs. All agreed that the kingdom would be in good hands. Everyone except for one person. The young prince's older half-brother. He seethed with jealousy. "The old king was my father, too," he said to himself. "How dare he choose my half-brother to be king?" In an instant, the angry half-brother knew what he would do. "Without the robe, the young prince cannot rule," he thought. "He is too young, too weak, but I am not." The very night the half-brother broke into the wardrobe where the imperial robe was locked away, and it took it to the top of a high tower. And there he slashed it to bits, scattering the torn pieces. Now he would wait. The time of mourning came to an end, and the young prince was led to the wardrobe. "The imperial robe is so powerful, you will only wear it in the inner rooms of the palace," the chief counselor told the prince. "It is time to see this remarkable garment." You can imagine the horror everyone felt when they saw the robe was gone. The poor prince fled in despair and locked himself away. Without the robe, he cannot be king. Without a ruler, the small kingdom was in danger, and anyone could attack and take over. So the gates were kept shut, The inns and guest houses stayed empty, but without visitors, the kingdom would soon be penniless. The townspeople were desolate. No one knew what to do. They needed the robe. But where was it? Only the half-brother knew. With the robe destroyed, the kingdom would soon become desperate and would step in to take his place as ruler. He prepared to put his plan into action. Around this same time, in a humble part of the kingdom, some children were playing by the river. "Look what I found," called a girl as the other children crowded around. "It's the most beautiful cloth I've ever seen. And there are more pieces over here, and more over there. Let's bring them to Amma. She is so wise, she'll know what they are," said a boy. So they did. "Why, these are fragments of the imperial robe," she said. "When I was a young seamstress at court, I once repaired the sleeve." As Amma gently held the glimmering pieces, she knew what had to be done. "Children, go back to the river," Amma said. "Look everywhere for other fragments." Together the children found more and more and more. Amma gathered those who could sew. They sewed and they sewed and they sewed. But there were still fragments missing. "Tell everyone to bring a piece of fabric that is precious to them," said Amma. "If they give lovingly, the robe can be completed." And the people did. "Here is a small piece from my wedding veil," an old woman said. "This is a bit of the blanket we used to protect our child when she was very ill," said a mother and father, "and she is grown now." "My grandfather gave me this scarf to keep the sun off my neck," said a boy. "This is from the coat of the beautiful doll my aunt brought me from the caravan," said a young girl. Over and over, people brought pieces of precious things from their lives, and Amma and the people sewed into the robe every treasured fragment they could find. When the robe was finished, it did not look the same as before, but a new and extraordinary pattern appeared. The people took the robe to the palace. "It is for a new king," the people said. The counselors brought the robe to the forlorn young prince and told him what had been done. The people found fragments of the imperial robe and sewed them together with fragments from their own lives, said the chief counselor. "They did it out of love for you and for the kingdom." "Then I shall wear it," said the prince, "but I will be robed in public. All shall see the new mystical robe." The counselors were amazed at the newfound strength of the young prince. The half-brother witnessed this from the shadows. "The robe has been found," he said to himself. "I must leave the kingdom before the robe destroys me." And off into the night he fled, and was never seen or heard from again. The very next day, for the first time, the people and their new king saw him in his imperial robe. It was a thing of mystery, power, and beauty. "My people," the young king declared, "this robe that I wear not only has the power, but also your love. Just as you have the love of your new king." Thanks for joining.